Part 7. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 61. A strange smile appeared on Li Kuyang's lips. Let's go, follow him. Bang. He exerted force on his feet and caught up with Li Huan in an instant. The man holding the sword behind him frowned, and without any nonsense, he followed him in a flash. Two figures followed Li Huan, one in front and one behind, only a few meters apart. Li Huan also noticed the pursuit from behind, and casually blasted two death sickles behind him. The cross-shaped black knife light blasted towards Li Kuyang, who was rushing from behind. At this time, the two of them were so fast that they almost collided with the black sickle head-on. At the same time, Li Huan's eyes flashed with a black cross light. A dark mist formed around him and directly enveloped Li Kuyang behind him. Facing the attack of the two death sickles and the cover of the black mist, Li Kuyang directly blasted out with both palms. Two golden swastika symbols appeared on his palms, forming two light shields with a diameter of 50 centimeters. The cross and the light shield collided, and a fierce impact broke out. The black mist has swept over and enveloped him. In the black mist, Li Kuyang felt a strange attraction. He was absorbing his own vitality, which made him feel weak. Death mist, a byproduct of the strange power mastered by Li Huan. Li Kuyang's face changed, and his chest suddenly took a breath. The lungs expanded rapidly, and a golden essence flowed into the lung meridian. Hey! With a loud shout, the terrifying golden sound wave swept around with him as the center. Violent air vibrations and faint golden light waves exploded from the black mist. Li Kuyang's sense of weakness disappeared in an instant, and the man with a sword behind him slashed with a sword. The violent silver sword wind flashed, splitting the remaining black mist within a 2-meter range, revealing Li Kuyang. The Arhat roar has been performed. It seems a bit powerful. The person who came was Li Kuyang's friend, Yuking Sword Li Bolun, who was also one of the top 10 masters of the Immortal Way on the cultivation list. This person practiced the Jade Purity Sword chapter, which came from an ancient sect book called Jade Purity Deo. Li Kuyang looked serious. There is something wrong with this death god Li Huan. His eyes are no longer those of a living person. I can feel the strong death energy in his body. Li Bolun's eyes lit up when he heard this. You mean, he is controlled? Yes, follow him. He must be controlled by the strange existence at the core of this strange illusion. In the center of the illusion, the face of the illusory strange child gradually became hideous. Its eyes were completely black, its teeth in its mouth were also black, and its 10 fingers grew sharp black nails. He looked at the Rubik's Cube in his hand, and in one of the cubes, it was the death god Li Huan and Li Kuyang and Li Bolun who were chasing him from behind. They are all bad guys, the hoarse and resentful voice was cold and ruthless. He slowly turned the Rubik's Cube, and the space in the strange illusion seemed to have changed. Death god Li Huan was moving forward in a passage. Li Kuyang and Li Bolun followed him for several meters, and the distance between them was no more than 1 second. A group of strange corpse monsters suddenly rushed out from the left side of the wall where Li Huan passed by, and a corridor appeared out of thin air. Li Kuyang and Li Bolun's faces changed drastically. When the death god Li Huan rushed past just now, there was clearly no corridor here. It suddenly appeared at this time, catching the two of them off guard. Li Kuyang and Li Bolun's faces sank, and without hesitation, they directly protected their hands. Li Kuyang's palms appeared with swastika light, and he slapped the two corpse monsters coming towards him. Li Bolun's sword light flashed like a silver dragon, and it flashed across the neck of the corpse monster. Bang bang. Puff. The sound of collision and cutting sounded. 4 of the 6 corpse monsters were separated from their heads and fell to the ground on the spot. The chests of the 2 corpse monsters were sunken and cracked, and a golden light exploded from their bodies, and a huge hole was pierced through their chests. Whoosh whoosh. The two figures almost didn't stop at all and continued to chase after the god of death Li Huan. The top 10 masters of the cultivation list, extremely powerful, with unlimited power in a small space. The mind of the god of death Li Huan was filled with a call from the strange child. He was full of anger, but there was nothing he could do. The moment he was caught, life and freedom had already left him, and he couldn't go against the voice from his body at all. Booming. The whole strange illusion was shaking violently, as if it would collapse at any time. The core of the strange illusion, here is a laboratory-like environment. On the operating table, the strange child sat on it, looking at the magic in his hand. At this time, a piece of the magic cube had completely turned black, and everything in the area it corresponded to was collapsing. A man wrapped in a faint red light held a piece of black hand bone in his hand. The hand bone was filled with a strange aura, as if it was a strange item. The man flashed and rushed towards a direction at the end of this area. There was no intact corridor in this area. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. After a few steps, he had already rushed out of the collapsing area. After landing in a safe place, he turned his head and looked behind him. The corridor he came from had been swallowed by a strange darkness, and the corridor was disappearing. A black gap appeared behind him. In the core of the strange illusion, the strange child had a hideous face, and the angry emotions gathered into a black smoke above its head. At this time, a black shadow flashed from the door of the laboratory to its front. The god of death Li Huan arrived here. The strange child looked at Li Huan, his dark eyes were frightening. It walked towards the god of death Li Huan, and flashed into his body. Then a cold voice came to Li Huan's mind, "Find that person, find my album." Even if he was trapped in a besieged situation, the owner of this strange illusion still held boundless hatred for Lin Yi. This seemed to have become an obsession in his heart. The magic cube appeared in Li Huan's hand, with a total of 26 cube structures of different colors on it, and they were extinguished one by one. At this time, a figure filled with golden light rushed into the core area of this strange illusion behind him. A punch was thrown in the air. This punch brought a huge sound of breaking through the air, and Li Huan looked back and blasted out a death sickle. The black knife light and fist light collided and exploded instantly. Lai Kuyang arrived, but he was knocked back by a blow in mid-air. At this time, a silver light flashed behind him, and the sword light pointed directly at Li Huan. Li Huan was blinded by the huge airflow and light generated by the collision between the death scythe and Lai Kuyang. Caught off guard, a silver sword light pierced out from the chaos. The sword light came too fast and too quickly, like a silver stream of light flashing in an instant. Puff. Blood burst, and a roar broke out. "Get out of here!" A pair of eyes flashing with black crosses immediately stared at the owner of the silver sword. Li Bolun felt a chill all over his body, not good. He was about to retreat, but it was too late. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 62. An invisible black air shone directly from the eyes of the god of death Li Huan onto him. In a moment, he felt a terrifying and strange cold air was madly invading him. His life was slipping away, and he couldn't stop it at all. At this time, a hand was placed on his back, and a hot power rushed out of it and merged into his body. "Use all your strength, this is the eyes of the god of death, the strange power of the god of death Li Huan." How dare Li Bolun neglect it, and he used all his strength to urge his own skills to flow through his body, and resist the invasion of the strange power together with the hot power of Lai Kuyang. At this time, the god of death Li Huan, who was stabbed by a sword, flashed and rushed towards a passage at the end of the laboratory. After a full 10 seconds, Li Bolun finally recovered his breath, and the strange power that enveloped him was expelled. In just 10 seconds, he almost consumed most of his strength, and his face was gloomy. "Chase him, I stabbed him in the vitals, he can't stop bleeding, and he can't run far. The core of the strange illusion must be on him." The two of them flashed and rushed into the direction where Li Huan fled. At this time, Li Huan did not fall down as they thought. The power of the strange child was rapidly spreading around him. His blood kept flowing out of his chest, but his speed did not slow down at all. It seemed that the blood in his body would never stop flowing, but in fact his body was already filled with black strange power. Li Huan's consciousness was gradually weakening, and the cold thing was devouring his will bit by bit. He had no way out, and his body was gradually no longer under his control. At this time, he did not see that his face was changing into another person. It was the strange child who possessed him, an adult's body with a strange child's face. The god of death Li Huan had come to the entrance of the strange illusion, and his strange body jumped up and rushed out of the illusion. The moment he rushed out of the illusion was directly triggered by a huge shock. It began to collapse rapidly, and the souls of many powerful men still inside all emerged and began to gather towards the exit. At the gate of the number 5 laboratory, more than a dozen powerful men were fighting each other. A figure rushed out of the laboratory, which naturally attracted their attention. A man with a faint green light all over his body, holding a mountain-splitting knife in his hand, chopped directly at the black shadow. "Stay here." This is a man with a naked upper body, with very strong muscles and bones, and the knife light is heavy. The knife light is covered with an inch of green light, like a green sky knife falling, giving people an irresistible momentum. The strange child controlled Li Huan's body to rush out of the laboratory, facing the oncoming knife light. His eyes were fierce. A death sickle has been blasted out, and a cross flashed in his eyes. The eye of death is activated. Boom! With a muffled sound, the two knife lights collided, and at the same time a strange breath of death enveloped the green light man. Puff! In the air, the green light softened, and then was flashed by the death sickle. Blood was spilled all over the ground, and the controlled Li Huan's body trembled slightly, and his bones and flesh shrank for a moment. Obviously, the two big moves just now consumed the potential of this body. Ah! A terrifying roar came from the mouth of Li Huan, who was no longer like a normal human. His mouth opened to the size of half a head, and black sound waves came out from it, spraying towards everyone present. Everyone felt like their heads were struck by lightning, as if something exploded in their minds. At this time, Li Huan passed through the gap where everyone was sluggish and rushed towards the passage outside the experiment. Two figures just rushed out of the weird illusion at this time and saw this scene. "Where are you running?" With a loud shout, the silver sword light exploded like a meteor, bringing endless cold light to cover the back of Li Huan. The crisis came, and Li Huan, who was running in front, turned around and blasted out two death sickles on the left and right at the same time. The pupils in his eyes flashed in a cross, covering the owner of the silver sword light, Li Bolun. At the same time, countless black mists enveloped a 3-meter radius for just 1 second. All the power that Li Huan possessed was fully exerted. But the price seemed to be very serious. Li Huan's flesh and blood seemed to have been drained, and he looked like a skeleton with skin and bones. He disappeared in the black mist in a flash. In the strange illusion, figures rushed out one after another, and their breaths rose and fell. As they rushed out of the strange illusion, they started fighting directly. The terrifying collision sound turned the laboratory into a more chaotic battlefield. And in less than a minute, a huge roar exploded in laboratory number 5. A terrifying shockwave sprayed out from the explosion, and a huge airflow rushed out along all ventilated places. Everyone present was submerged by this huge shockwave. At this time, the northern urban area of Honglian City was affected, and the sewer wells exploded one by one. A piece of sewage flowed, and countless feces were directly poured out of the toilets of more than hundreds of households. For a time, the poorest northern city of Honglian City became a stinking smell. Sirens rang out a moment later, and various fire brigades quickly rushed to the North City. At the same time, in the underground Superman laboratory, a group of people suffered different injuries in the explosion. The ground of the number 5 laboratory had been completely blown up, and a huge pit with a radius of 10 meters appeared. The strange illusion had been completely destroyed, and dozens of figures were staggering, and many people's breath was directly weakened. Some weaker people even lay on the ground, without breathing. The living people struggled to stand up, guarded against each other, and walked out of the Superman laboratory in groups of 3 or 5. The strange illusion was destroyed, and they had nothing to fight for. Some of them had already taken some things from the strange illusion, which was considered a gain. Honglian City was popular in the news of the Honglian world, and even various live broadcasts began to be broadcast quickly. Lin Yi was sitting in the bedroom of the Wanchaiwu watching TV, wearing pajamas, a nightcap, and holding a cup of calming tea in his hand. His mouth was wide open, and the TV was playing a scene of countless sewage manhole covers in the North City rising into the sky. The scene, like a fairy scattering flowers, made him feel a taste. The picture kept changing, and every angle was a scene of sewage rising into the sky, which was obviously recorded by various video equipment. Some were recorded by monitors, some were recorded by mobile phones, and some were recorded by cameras, basically all by chance. This is a savory video. Awesome, really awesome, it's blown up, what happened? Dong dong dong. There was a knock on the door. Lin Yi looked at his door. Come in. Kaka. The door opened, and Brandy walked in with a shocked look on his face. Manager, did you see that North City exploded? I saw in the live video that some people's toilets in their homes exploded and were flooded with sewage. As he said that, he handed his mobile phone to Lin Yi, like offering a treasure. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 63. Looking at the screen in the phone, a yellow and white thing covered the screen, the sour and refreshing, looking at it is very vomiting. Lin Yi frowned, waved his hand, and swept the phone away. Take it away, don't you see I'm drinking tea? Brandy was beaming at this time. Boss, I saw the comments, there was an explosion in the sewer. I heard that someone felt a huge vibration underground, and it was serious. There are also vibration data, and it was analyzed that it was caused by the explosion. Lin Yi frowned when he heard it. Explosion? Really? Let me see. He took out his mobile phone and directly clicked on some forum apps to see various posts. The sewer explosion also quickly made the front page headlines. Mysterious sewer explosion? The truth is the secret experiment of the empire. The truth of the explosion? It was caused by an unknown event. The strong people on the cultivation list competed for treasures, causing the sewer explosion. When Lin Yi saw the 3 words cultivation list, he was attracted. He carefully read the content of the article, which described some masters on the cultivation list who appeared in Honglian City today. The consortiums and families behind the famous masters have made some moves. Some people even commented on the names of several people. King Kong Arhat Li Kuyang, Silver Sword Phi Peng Li Bolun, and others are all masters on the list. These people disappeared after arriving in Honglian City, so they were listed as suspects. It has to be said that with the increasingly developed network, famous people can't hide their whereabouts at all. Some things are directly exposed. After Lin Yi carefully checked it, he was thoughtful. It seems that these people's purpose should be the weird illusion in the Superman laboratory, or the research materials inside. Lin Yi didn't know how important the weird core in the weird illusion was, so he didn't associate it with the weird core. The next day, the whole Honglian City was filled with a strong smell that lasted for a long time. Although the fire brigade used water to wash the streets frantically, and the engineering team quickly repaired the damaged sewers. But the result was still embarrassing. The smell lasted for a long time, and the whole Honglian city had a hard day. There were no customers coming to the Wanchaiwa for dinner, which showed how big a problem the sewer explosion had caused. However, this did not affect Lin Yi, and he began to practice according to the method of the Vajra seal. Through the translation dictionary sent by Sakuramiya Shirley, he had completely analyzed the Vajra seal. Dongcheng Park, this is the largest park in Honglian City, and 1/3 of the area of Dongcheng is occupied by this park. Lin Yi's purpose of coming here is also very simple. The energy here is very active, which makes it easier to practice the Vajra seal. At this time, he was practicing in a remote pavilion in the park. This seal method is a combination of movement and stillness. There are a total of 6 seal methods and 6 moves. Each move and seal method performed at the same time will trigger the resonance of the body's essence and the external vitality. At this time, Lin Yi was practicing, and the moves and seal methods were repeated. Every complete practice would increase the upper limit of the body's essence. If you want to break through to the human immortal path, you must first reach the first level of human immortality. This realm is divided into 3 stages. The first stage is the spirit pool. As the name implies, it is to open a spirit pool in the danshan of the Qi Si. Only the spirit pool can store more essence. The capacity of the human body's Qi Si and meridians is limited, and the spirit pool is a tool for tempering and accommodating more essence. To break through the spirit pool, the essence contained in the body must be raised to the limit of the body and reach the level of resonance with the outside world, so that the spirit pool can be constructed with the help of the power of heaven and earth. At this time, Lin Yi is still at the level of raising the upper limit of essence, and there is still some time before he can condense the spirit pool. Hu. The 6 moves and seals are constantly rotating in Lin Yi's hands, 9 cycles in one breath, a full hour of practice time. When he felt a feeling of fullness in his body, he ended today's practice. On the first day, he felt that his upper limit of essence increased by at least 1%. This is really a huge gain, but the Vajra seal is probably a test of willpower. He exhaled slowly. After the first actual practice, he had understood the hardship of this seal. Every time you practice, the flow of vital energy will exert a strong pressure on the body, resulting in constant stabbing pain. Short-term stabbing pain can be tolerated, but the pain that lasts for an hour is enough to make most people give up practicing this technique. However, Lin Yi also discovered a benefit of the seal method. After completing the practice, he felt that he was energetic and his mind was very clear. A few days passed in the blink of an eye. The sewer incident in Honglian City had subsided, but the undercurrent did not disappear. On the streets of Honglian City, various mysterious people appeared from time to time, as if searching for something. Lin Yi was drinking coffee in the Wanchi house at this time, and his eyes kept observing the streets outside. From time to time, you can see some people with martial arts passing by. Most of these people are only at the level of swallowing air, but they practice various techniques. Lin Yi made observations and records through the True Destiny solution, and he has more than 10 martial arts methods in his hands. These techniques have different focuses, some focus on speed, some focus on resistance to blows, and some focus on improving strength. He used all these skills once for testing. However, he also found a problem in the process. When he continuously used different skills, his body would be damaged. Although the damage could be repaired later, it also limited his use of these skills. As long as he continuously switched 5 skills in a short period of time, he would directly suffer internal injuries. But even so, it was a huge help. He could switch several combat modes in a short period of time. If it were an ordinary warrior, it would be impossible to switch skills at will. He could do it because of the True Destiny, which was unique in the world. In the past few days, Honglian City was not peaceful, and conflicts often broke out. Although it would soon disappear and the imperial police who heard the news would return empty-handed. But this kind of tossing also disturbed the whole Honglian city. While drinking coffee, he looked at a stack of documents. This was the information he bought from Lao Wei, which cost him 10 gold coins. The strange illusion under Superman's laboratory was destroyed, but did the core strange existence inside escape? It seems to be possessed by the death god Li Huan. This guy is so unlucky. He went to hunt down Sakura Miyaswili last time and ended up losing himself. I didn't expect that he is still possessed by a strange existence now. It's really tragic. But it seems that he carries the strange core of the strange illusion. Many forces are tracking him down. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 64. Lin Yi looked thoughtful as he looked at the pages attached to the back of the document. Some dangerous people were listed on it. The forces being tracked are as follows. Name, Lai Kuyang. Age, 30. Level, Human Immortal Spirit Pool. Martial Arts, Arhat Golden Body, known as a body like diamond, indestructible and indestructible. Achievements, number 1 in the Human Immortal Martial Arts Practice List. Background, the eldest son of the Lai family in the Red Lotus Realm, the Lai family, a family that controls 30% of the food in the Red Lotus Realm, with hundreds of group companies under its command. Name, Li Bolun. Age, 28. Level, Human Immortal Spirit Pool. Martial Arts, Yuking Sword Chapter, known as the Silver Sword Sky Pen, the sword light is like a rock, and there is no trace to be found. Achievements, number 7 in the Human Immortal Martial Arts Practice List. Background, the third son of the Li family in the Red Lotus Realm, a large family that controls 30% of the mineral resources in the Red Lotus Realm, with hundreds of group companies under its command. This document records more than a dozen people, basically all of whom are masters of practice. Like the death god Li Huan, there seems to be no one who has mastered the strange power. After thinking about it, Lin Yi felt that it might be because Lao Wei was just a mediator who resold information. Regarding the strange existence, he did not have much contact, but only knew some simple information. Even he learned about the strange objects and strange forces from Sakura Mia Shirley. After thinking about it, Lin Yi secretly said, there are still so many people tracking the possessed death god Li Huan. It seems that the core strange object of the strange illusion has an extraordinary effect, otherwise they would not work so hard. Looking up at the sky, it was evening, it's almost time. Ring ring ring. Accompanied by the ringing, Lin Yi left the Wanchaiwu, took the bus, and arrived at the park in the east half an hour later. He would come here to practice every morning and evening, and now it was time to practice at night. The street lights slowly lit up, and the sky gradually dimmed. From time to time, some elderly people could be seen walking on the small road in the park. Honglian City has been very lively recently, but generally speaking, it does not affect these elderly people. Their days were still the same, eating, resting, walking, sleeping, and sharing the joy of family with their families. On the way, Lin Yi nodded to a few familiar uncles and continued to move forward. He came here often recently and they were all nodding acquaintances. Turning around along the park road, he soon came to the pavilion where he practiced. There was basically no one here, especially at night, there was no one in sight. Standing in the pavilion, Lin Yi took a deep breath and then exhaled deeply. The essence in the body flowed, and the whole body gave off a slight feeling of fullness. This was the reaction that the essence had reached the limit of the body's capacity. The next step was to wait for an opportunity to resonate with the outside world of heaven and earth during the process of practicing the seal method. It is not easy to create a spirit pool in resonance. This is the gap between humans and immortals. If you step through it, you are an immortal, and if you can't pass it, you are immortal. Since ancient times, countless people have been stuck at this level, although external factors also account for a huge reason. Lin Yi practiced slowly, carefully feeling the flow of power in his body, and at the same time carefully experiencing the connection between himself and the outside world. Each move, accompanied by the vibration of the seal, will cause a slight vibration of the essence in the body. He can feel that every vibration seems to have a weak resonance with the outside world. On his body, he exudes a faint golden glow, as dim as the light of a firefly. But this light is full of tranquility, a breath of emptiness. This is the breath that martial arts originally carry, and it is emitted along with Lin Yi's practice. At this time, in the park woods not far from Lin Yi, a black figure stood there. He was wrapped in black smoke, and an unspeakable evil breath enveloped the range of 1 meter around him. The skull-like face, shriveled skin, deep eye sockets, and the teeth were almost exposed from under the shriveled lips. The hair was sparse, and the shriveled scalp could be seen. It didn't look like a living person. A low, hoarse voice sounded, "I found you. Give me back my things." Crack. The footsteps stepped on the withered branches on the ground, and it rushed madly towards the pavilion where Lin Yi was. Although it was shrunken and looked like a dead person, its speed was amazingly fast. It sprinted, jumped up, and pounced on Lin Yi from a height of 3 meters. 2 black death sickles on its arms slammed down on Lin Yi. The person who came was Li Huan, the god of death who was possessed by a strange existence. With the 2 death sickles, his originally dry skin cracked completely, revealing his dark bones. The death sickle came from the air, and Lin Yi also sensed the murderous intent in the sky at the same time. Facing the unknown attack, he kicked the ground with his feet, and pulled up the onion in the dry land, and the carp turned over. With a jump, he flipped out from the other side of the pavilion. Boom! With a muffled sound, a deep cross-shaped knife mark appeared on the ground of the pavilion. A dark figure rushed out of the pavilion and chased Lin Yi. Lin Yi flipped over and landed in the pavilion, his feet stepped on the soil, and his whole body was condensed to the extreme. In the Vajra seal, the fearless seal is condensed in the right fist. Once the seal is completed, he is filled with a fearless spirit. At the same time, a golden light from the right fist transforms into a large seal, wrapping Lin Yi's fist. Once the seal is completed, the external vitality fluctuates, and the golden light merges into the seal. Facing the shadow that rushed out from the pavilion, Lin Yi did not hesitate and blasted out a seal. All this seemed quite complicated, but it was actually just a blink of an eye. A completely dry black claw, wrapped in countless black smoke, collided with the golden seal. Bang! With a muffled sound, Lin Yi's whole body shook, and a huge force came from his right arm. Bang bang bang! Retreating 3 steps in a row, the golden seal on Lin Yi's right fist exploded directly in the impact. His face changed, the opponent's power was too strong, 1 level higher than his own. At this time, the 5 black fingers had already arrived in front of Lin Yi. Lin Yi's foot was wrong, his head was half a head shorter, his fists were put under his abdomen, and 2 seals condensed. Fearless seal, Vajra seal. The fearless seal condensed huge power and increased combat power. The Vajra seal condensed the surrounding energy, and a Vajra-like nature was added to his body. At this moment, Lin Yi felt that his strength and physique had increased out of thin air. The 2 fists blasted out, and the 2 seals blasted forward at the same time. At this time, Li Huan swung his claws in the air and grabbed the empty space above Lin Yi's head. This flaw was within Lin Yi's calculation. The 2 seals gathered powerful force and blasted towards Li Huan's chest. The Yiling Jing in his body was running, and a ray of green light had been injected into his fists. Ah! The 2 seals hit Li Huan's chest, and it let out a shrill and terrifying cry. The body was like a cannonball, crashing towards the back and hitting the steps of the pavilion behind it heavily. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 65. Boom! The foundation of the pavilion also cracked under this huge force. In order to kill him while he was weak, Lin Yi stepped on the ground and chased him like a cannonball. He clasped his hands together and struck the lion seal on his hands. A ray of green light was diffused in the blazing gold. The lion seal method is mainly solid and explosive, and his arms are as indestructible as diamond. Of course, this is just a saying. If it really collides with divine weapons, it is also flesh and blood. The lion seal method hammered down Li Huan, who fell on the steps of the pavilion, and the power was so strong that it could tear the air. A huge airflow hammered straight at Li Huan, but a kind of horror made Lin Yi wake up instantly. He saw a black light shooting towards him. At this time, the move was old, but Lin Yi still forced the lion seal to turn in an instant. The body moved sideways an inch to avoid the oncoming black light. Boom! The lion seal hit the ground to the left of Li Huan's head. At this time, Li Huan's eyes exploded directly, and two dark eye sockets were emitting black smoke. The previous attack seemed to be a strange force shot out from his eyes. But Li Huan was not affected by the explosion of his eyes. A black shadow blasted out from Li Huan's lower body, like a black cannonball, with black smoke. Lin Yi rolled over and avoided the leg, watching Li Huan crawling up from the ground vigilantly. The opponent looked like a walking corpse, with black eyes staring at Lin Yi's direction. The body was slightly bent, slightly hunched, and the attacking form was filled with more and more black smoke. Lin Yi looked at the other party's face, and an illusory face covered the other party's face. It was a child's face, full of resentment. "Give it back, my album. Give it back to me. Ah, give it back to me, ah." A crazy roar sounded, and a shock directly pointing to the spirit rushed towards Lin Yi. With a slight dizziness in his head, Li Huan suddenly rushed towards Lin Yi. His two hands were like ghost claws, covered with black smoke, grabbing towards his head and chest. Lin Yi felt dizzy, and knew that it was not good. He directly pinched a seal and his mind became clear. Aquarius seal, a seal to eliminate all external demon invasions. With a clear mind, Lin Yi recovered, and the two ghost claws were less than 1 meter away. He narrowed his eyes and injected a stream of energy into his left index finger. The wailing ring was instantly activated, and a terrifying sound wave exploded, covering Lin Yi within 3 meters. The death god Li Huan was instantly shocked, and the illusory child's face showed a trace of confusion. Several blood lights shot out from the blood ring on Lin Yi's middle finger, binding all of Li Huan's limbs. A huge force burst out, directly lifting Li Huan from the ground to mid-air. At this time, the illusory boy on Li Huan seemed to regain consciousness and felt that he seemed to be bound. He began to struggle madly. "Let go, let go." Black smoke rushed out from his limbs, and it had a strong decaying nature. The blood tentacles quickly became pitted under the decay of the black smoke. But Lin Yi seized the opportunity at this moment and rushed up in a flash. His body slightly bent, and his fists turned into diamond seals, and slammed towards the waist and abdomen of Li Huan in mid-air. Just now, he hit Li Huan with one move and smashed the opponent's chest, where the spine behind could be seen. This attack was aimed at the waist and abdomen, and he wanted to smash the opponent's spine directly. In mid-air, with nowhere to borrow strength, Li Huan struggled madly, and saw Lin Yi pounced in front of him, and the huge danger woke him up. The limb suddenly shrank, blocking in front of his chest and abdomen, shrinking himself into a ball. Boom! Two fearless seals simultaneously bombarded the limbs of Li Huan, who were hugged together. Crack, crack, crack. The sound of shattering was heard, and Li Huan flew into the air like a ball. The blood tentacles locked its limbs, causing its limbs to be pulled back. Only the body continued to fly forward under the action of inertia. The whole body was like a slingshot, pulling the blood tentacles, and flew back for several meters, and the tentacles were straightened. Puff! Finally, the limbs straightened by the blood tentacles broke directly under the huge inertia, and only the body flew out. 10 meters away, Li Huan fell heavily into the flowers without his limbs. Lin Yi narrowed his eyes, jumped over in a few steps, and looked at Li Huan. He did not move forward rashly. If his guess was right, this guy might be the core weird existence of the weird illusion. Possessed Li Huan, and the real Li Huan should have died. The opponent's power is strong, and it seems to be no weaker than Sakura Mia Shirley and the real death god Li Huan. But he obviously lacked combat experience, and he was caught by him. Relying on the characteristics of Vajrasil and Spiritual Sutra, he was directly crippled. Staying 2 meters away from the opponent, Lin Yi stopped, and Li Huan's body was undergoing abnormal changes. His stomach was bulging, as if something was about to rush out from inside. Seeing this scene, Lin Yi immediately stepped back 2 meters and kept a vigilant distance. Facing such a mysterious and strange existence, it is not too much to keep more vigilance. Puff. With a tearing sound, a phantom child with black smoke all over his body and a pale body crawled out of the stomach of Li Huan. It looked about 10 years old, with dark eyes and no expression as it looked at Lin Yi. It was like a zombie without any emotion, which made Lin Yi feel a chill in his heart. The next moment, an inexplicable strange power shot out from his eyes and reached Lin Yi's heart. In an instant, Lin Yi's eyes blurred, and several terrifying monsters appeared out of thin air and rushed towards him. And the strange child had disappeared. Lin Yi's face changed, and he took a step back to avoid the 3 monsters that appeared out of thin air. However, the 3 monsters were very strange beasts. They had 5 claws on each of their arms, just like the werewolves in the novel. Although he avoided the joint attack of the 3 monsters, his chest felt a little hot. He was scratched by the claws and left a few blood marks. The light of the true destiny flashed in Lin Yi's eyes. A sneer appeared at the corner of his mouth, and he took a step forward, rushing towards the middle of the 3 monsters like a cannonball. The 3-headed monster was attacking him again, but Lin Yi didn't seem to care about the opponent's attack at all. He punched out and formed a seal to subdue demons. This seal has the will to break illusions, and it is the seal of mental attack in the Vajra seal. The golden seal accompanied by green light instantly hit a space in the middle of the 3-headed monster. Ah! The shrill scream of a child sounded, and a figure was hit in half. The 3-headed monster also disappeared from Lin Yi's eyes in an instant. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 66. The 3-headed monster is not real at all, it is an illusion created by this weird child. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. And this ability to hallucinate is the power this weird child possesses. But this power is not just a mere illusion, it is a power that can cause death. The few traces of blood on Lin Yi's chest were the natural reaction of his body caused by the hallucination. The hallucinations are reflected on the body, and even wounds appear. The effect of this strange power is also very terrifying. At this time, the strange child, who was punched in half by Lin Yi, was struggling wildly on the ground. His body was illusory, and at the break of his waist, a green light flashed, and pieces of black smoke evaporated. The child's face was distorted and he was crawling crazily towards his lower body, as if he wanted to reconnect his body. However, Lin Yi would not give him a chance, and a picture album appeared in his eyes. It was snatched from Li Huan in a strange illusion. At this moment, spiritual waves poured into the picture album, opened a blank page, and enveloped the boy in front of him. Bang! There was a muffled sound. The 2 broken parts of the child's body disappeared into the black light emitted by the album. A weird twisting sound kept coming, as if something was being chewed. Lin Yi turned the album over. On the 4th page, a child split into 2 parts appears on the picture album. His face was distorted and crazy, and his eyes were filled with the desire to destroy everything. Seeing its ferocious expression and crazy eyes, Lin Yulingbo injected it again and raised his hand to shake. In a puff of black smoke, the strange child's broken body appeared again. At this time, the green light had disappeared from the wounds on his body. Obviously, the green light was worn away during the process of being included in the album. It struggled, connected its body, and struggled to get up from the ground. He looked at Lin Yi with a hint of admiration in his eyes, as if he was seeing a relative. After a few steps, he walked to Lin Yi's feet. A dark Rubik's Cube appeared in his hand and was handed to Lin Yi. Lin Yi was stunned, took the Rubik's Cube, and looked at it in surprise. It was filled with strong strange power. The child stretched out his hands and put a bear hug on one of Lin Yi's legs. The strange child buried his head and just hugged Lin Yi's right leg tightly without letting go at all. A faint cold feeling covered the legs, but there was no weight at all. Frowning, Lin Yi secretly said, "This album is really weird. Anyone who is sucked into it will become a slave. And a slave who is completely obedient to the person who controls the album. In other words, if other people get this album, they can also control it freely." Lin Yi frowned as he looked at the thin picture book in his hand, which was only for children with no more than 5 pages. The spiritual wave was injected, and the pendant on the leg instantly turned into a black smoke and returned to the album. His whole body relaxed slightly, and the energy that had been running in his body slowly subsided, and Lin Yi took a deep breath. He looked around and saw that it was a mess, and the pavilion had completely collapsed in the battle just now. Shaking his head, he turned around and walked into a path. After a few seconds, he completely disappeared here. He had only been away for 10 minutes, and several waves of people had arrived. After they were wary of each other for a while, they each began to investigate the place. Especially Li Huan's body, after careful inspection, they all came to the same conclusion. Li Huan, god of death? The death seal is still on him, there can be no mistake. How could it die here? There is no weird illusion core in him. Someone got there first. Several people looked at each other and came to a conclusion, then turned around and left here. Apparently they went back and reported to their respective superiors. At this time, Lin Yi returned to the Wansawu house, sitting in the bedroom, looking at the black Rubik's Cube in his hand. There is no difference in style between this Rubik's Cube and an ordinary Rubik's Cube. The only problem is the color. It is completely black, completely different from the 6 colors of the ordinary Rubik's Cube. After thinking about it, Lin Yi injected spiritual waves into it. Then his expression changed, and a black smoke erupted from the Rubik's Cube. Walls, floors, and ceilings could not stop the smoke, which quickly filled the entire room. Wanchaiwu is a 2-story building. In front of the first floor is a 50-square-meter lobby, where guests dine. Then at the end of the lobby, next to the bar, is a corridor. The hallway entrance has stairs leading to the second floor. On the left side of the corridor is Lin Yi's bedroom, and on the right side is the kitchen and utility room. There are 2 guest rooms on the second floor. If there are guests, they can be rented there. Behind the corridor is a separate courtyard, which is full of various plants. It is quite delicately maintained, and it obviously takes a lot of effort. At this time, countless black smoke filled the air from Lin Yi's bedroom, covering the entire Wanchi house. Lin Yi felt his head move, and the environment of Wanchaiwu view appeared in his mind. What's going on? Countless black smoke quickly merged with the Wanchi house, and the illusory space on the first floor overlapped with the rooms of the Wanchi house. Some information flowed into Lin Yi's mind, and his expression changed. Is this the weird thing at the core of the weird fantasy? It's really amazing that you can actually create space. Lin Yi looked at the Rubik's Cube in his hand, and there was still some information swirling in his mind. It is not the information in the manual, but the owner of this Rubik's Cube will automatically know what effect this Rubik's Cube can produce. If I use 2 words to describe it, instinct. Although there is no clear information, I just know how to use this thing. Lin Yi's thoughts are connected with this Rubik's Cube. As long as he wants, he can directly use the function of this Rubik's Cube. With a thought in his mind, a light mist appeared, and his room was instantly shrouded in mist. This is the ability after the fusion of the Rubik's Cube space, which can produce basic mist and cover the senses of living beings. Looking down at the Rubik's Cube, Lin Yi said, "Let's call this thing the weird Rubik's Cube." The basic function is to fuse buildings and turn them into a different space. The second function can generate mist in the different space and cover the senses of living beings. The third function is to fuse strange objects and integrate the power of strange objects into the different space to produce different effects. I have used the first two functions, and the third function needs to be tried. Lin Yi's hands appeared with three strange items he held: the Ring of Blood, the Ring of Wailing, and the Summoning Album. First he came to the lobby, which was filled with a faint mist. Lin Yi looked at the three strange items in his hand, picked up the blood ring and placed it on the ground. Then his mind communicated with the strange magic cube, and a faint wave flickered, covering the blood ring. It can be seen with the naked eye that the blood ring slowly disappeared, as if it had merged into this space. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 67. A faint red mist spread out from the surrounding space, dyeing the entire space dark red. With a thought, the red mist in the lobby condensed into 10 blood tentacles, flying around Lin Yi. With a thought, these tentacles danced in front of him according to his thoughts. The power of each tentacle has been greatly improved. Bang bang bang. In the lobby, 10 tentacles kept waving, making violent explosions. This is the effect of huge force tearing the air into a vacuum. With a thought, a tentacle chopped down at Lin Yi's head. He punched out, covering the essence, and directly output 70%. Bang. With a muffled sound, Lin Yi's face changed, and his body retreated 3 steps before standing firm. His arm was numb, and even his 70% strength could not withstand the power of a blood tentacle. It's amazing. 10 blood tentacles are equivalent to 10 top-level masters. If anyone comes to make trouble here, he will probably be beaten into a pig's head. Lin Yi had a weird smile on his face, thinking about what it would be like if someone was hung up and whipped by blood tentacles. It really makes people feel comfortable just thinking about it. Lin Yi smiled weirdly, and his mind moved. The red mist and tentacles in the lobby all dissipated, and everything returned to calm, turning into an ordinary lobby without any abnormalities. Then he turned and went to the backyard, which was the most vulnerable place to invasion. After thinking about it, he put the sealed book on the ground. With the mist enveloping it, it disappeared here, but Lin Yi could feel their presence. With a thought, 4 figures appeared in the backyard. The 2-meter-tall purple corpse monster, the illusory weird child, the bad doctor covered with pustules, and the tall 2-headed dog all appeared in front of Lin Yi. They stood in front of Lin Yi very tamely, especially the illusory child and the 2-headed dog. One of them held Lin Yi's feet neatly, and the other came to Lin Yi like a pug and circled around him. It was not until Lin Yi touched their heads that the child and the dog calmed down. Lin Yi carefully observed them for a while, and finally his eyes fell on the purple corpse monster. Let the purple corpse monster start swinging his fist to test its strength. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The punch was fierce, at least 2 levels higher than its original strength. This purple humanoid was a fierce existence in the Superman laboratory that could chase the death god Li Huan up and down. It could also suppress Li Huan, Sakura Miyaswili, Xiaoqiu Butler, him and Li Kaiyu at the same time. On this basis, the increase was 20%. Lin Yi felt that it might be regarded as a master in the human immortal way. Another doctor with pustules all over his body was also very strange, and his whole body was filled with a foul-smelling black smoke. This is a corrosive poison, and the power seems to have been increased. As for the 2-headed dog, The most terrifying thing about it is that it can spit out terrifying black flames and ice from its two mouths. Black flames and ice, the double power of ice and fire, are really powerful. As for the last weird child, it can create illusions, making any life die in the illusion without knowing it. Moreover, the black smoke all over the body can also turn into countless tentacles to attack in this Xuanqi house. If Lin Yi did not have the true destiny solution to see through its illusion directly, he would probably have only one way to die. The four terrifying monsters in the picture album summoned in the backyard, each of which has the characteristics of a human immortal master. At this time, Lin Yi had a strong confidence in his heart, four masters comparable to human immortals. Adding himself, this combat power is absolutely shocking. His Xuanqi house will become an unassailable fortress. With the thought, the four monsters disappeared with the surrounding fog. But they did not disappear, but entered another spatial level in the backyard. Only when foreign enemies invade, they will descend from another layer of space and kill the enemy. Lin Yi held the last wailing ring in his hand, thought about it and came to the kitchen. After integrating the wailing ring into the kitchen, he felt that he could activate the effect of the wailing ring at will. Launch a mental attack on the enemy who enters the kitchen, and because it is integrated into the space of the kitchen. The effect of the wailing ring has become an attack without dead ends in the entire kitchen, and the power has increased by nearly double. Feeling the connection between his mind and all the weird things in the Xuanqi house, Lin Yi was thoughtful. The core weird thing of the weird illusion, can it combine the power of countless weird things and amplify them at the same time? And create this kind of fusion space? That's why it attracts all the major forces to compete. Lin Yi returned to his room with a hint of his own judgment. In Honglian City, where Li Huan died, a man with a cold face appeared here. A blood-red scalpel in his hand kept rolling in his hand, and his fingers were not as flexible as human fingers. The man in black was Bai Minjiao, the deputy captain of the blood department, who watched the scene thoughtfully. On his left hand, a small black beetle slowly flew up and danced on the corpse for a while. The little beetle seemed to have caught something, and slowly flew up and flew in one direction. Bai Minjiao followed it, heading in the direction where the little beetle flew away. Many people came here one after another, each performing some mysterious methods and began to track certain traces. Coincidentally, many people gathered at the same place in Honglian City. An inexplicable undercurrent began to surge towards the city. Lin Yi had no idea about the core of all the events. 3 days passed in a blink of an eye. Since the attack, he had not gone to the park in the east. Instead, he practiced the Vajra Sutra in his backyard every day. Every day, Brandy would make all preparations and concentrate on running the store. They lived a very comfortable life, but Brandy always felt that something was strange in the store these days. Seeing Lin Yi coming in from the backyard, he came to him quietly. "Manager, have you noticed that our store has been a little strange recently?" "Strange? What do you mean?" With a strange look, Lin Yi looked at Brandy. "It's just a little cold for no reason. I always feel a weird feeling in the store. It seems that something is looking at me, as if there is a ghost." Lin Yi frowned when he heard this. He didn't have this feeling at all, and couldn't help but look at Brandy. The power of the true destiny solution flashed in his eyes. After looking at Brandy, his eyebrows jumped. There was a faint golden light flashing between Brandy's eyebrows. Although it was only a trace, it seemed to be some kind of mysterious power. Is this a talent? Lin Yi thought about it. This guy is really lucky to have a talent. Talent appeared after the world began to change. Some people, stimulated by the revived vitality of the outside world, triggered some mysterious powers of the human body. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 68. People with talent can practice martial arts with half the effort, and can reach the peak of their cultivation in a short period of time. It is said that the top 10 masters on the practice list all have some special talents. Some can speed up their practice, some have powerful strength or mysterious energy affinity, and some can even enhance the power of martial arts. I don't know what attribute this guy's talent is, but gold? It should be metallic or light. The King Mugong is peaceful and suitable for everyone, but there is no follow-up, so he can continue practicing first. But he can sense that something is wrong in the house of all things. Could it be that his talent can sense strange auras? Thinking of the fusion of the room and the space Rubik's Cube in the past few days, he was sure that what Brandy sensed was the strange power. Glancing at Brandy, Lin Yi smiled and said, "Don't worry, I know the reason. Just do your job well and the store will be safer in the future. Also, practice the Aoki Kung Fu well. You seem to be very suitable for practice and have talents in this area." Brandy raised her brows when she heard this, with a hint of excitement in her eyes. "Really? Manager, I am suitable for practice." Glancing at Brandy, who was full of expectations, Lin Yi pursed his lips. "Isn't it just suitable for practice? Why are you so happy? Go, don't have to work anymore." As he said that, he waved his hand at Brandy and shooed him away like flies. Ring ring ring. The doorbell rang, and Shirley Sakuramiya walked in wearing a black dress. Lin Yi looked at the sudden arrival of Sakuragong Shirley and was slightly surprised. "Hey, Miss Sakuramiya. Why are you here?" Shirley Sakuramiya's face remained calm, as if she had remained indifferent for thousands of years. "Come and sit here." "What? You're not welcome." "Welcome, of course, who doesn't like big customers?" Shirley Sakuragong sat directly opposite Lin Yi and glanced at the brandy next to her, a cup of Ruxia coffee, no sugar added. After hearing this, Brandy rushed into the bar and started making coffee. This guy's face was red, and he seemed to be very excited to see Shirley Sakuramiya. Lin Yi rolled his eyes at him, then turned to look at Sakuragong. "Shirley, looking at you, you don't look like you're here to drink coffee. Just tell me what you have to say." Shirley Yinjiang looked at Lin Yi. "Did you kill the god of death Li Huan and get the core weird object of that weird illusion?" When Lin Yi heard this, he paused while holding the teacup and glanced at Yinjiang. "Shirley, is there a problem? Some people have already found you, but they are observing. I also heard some rumors, just to give you a heads up." When the coffee cup was gently placed on the table, and Brandy said respectfully, "Please use it." Lin Yi thought about Yinjiang Shirley's words, and felt a sense of solemnity in his heart. Many people are arguing about the core of the strange illusion, and he has already made a decision on this matter. Especially in Lao Wei's information, the people involved all have powerful backgrounds. If he really comes to the door and makes trouble to the end, I'm afraid he will just slap his butt and leave with other things. Throw them the strange object at the heart of this strange illusion, and the house of all things will probably be ruined. But he didn't expect these people to come to his door so quickly, which surprised him. As expected of a powerful force, this method cannot compare. After sighing, Lin Yi made a decision in his mind. After all, things are not as important as lives, but Sakuramiya surely revealed the information to him. At least he still has the possibility to deal with it and will not be caught off guard. Thank you for reminding me. I'll remember this favor. Lin Yi looked at Shirley Yinjiang, with a trace of solemnity on his face. It is already a great favor for others to remind me. It's a small thing, but you should be careful. These people are not simple. There are a few people you need to pay attention to. White Gloves Mobi. He is one of the famous geniuses of white gloves. White Gloves? What kind of organization is that? Lin Yi asked, confused. That is one of the largest terrorist organizations in the Red Lotus world. It is very dangerous. Their power is mainly based on strange objects. They often cause dangerous murders with unknown intentions, so once they come to your door, you have to be very careful. Others, such as people on the practice list, may also come, and they will probably recruit you, and then get the core of the weird illusion. But no matter what method they use, you probably won't be able to protect the core of this weird illusion. Lin Yi's eyes sank slightly as he listened to Yinjiang Shirley's words. The result was basically the same as what he had expected. After thinking about it, he smiled bitterly, shook his head, looked at Sakuramiya Shirley and said, "Do you think a strong person above the human immortal realm might appear in this matter?" After hearing this, Shirley Sakura thought for a moment, looked at Lin Yuda, and said, "No. Because this is just the lowest level for Weird Illusion Core, and it's not time to attract the attention of these truly powerful people. If you can really block these powerful men of the Immortal Deo level, you might still have a chance. After all, this is Red Lotus City, and there are limits to the methods they can use. No one can ignore the majesty of the Red Lotus Empire. You can do whatever you want in private. But if it causes huge damage and impact to Red Lotus City, they will definitely have to face the Empire's encirclement and suppression, and they will definitely not feel comfortable by then. If you really want to keep this core weird thing, you have to be prepared." Lin Yi thought for a moment, "Thank you for your information this time. You can come to me if you have any problems in the future. I'll give you a 50% discount." Sakuramiya Shirley rolled her eyes at Lin Yi. "Okay, I've given you the news. Be careful." She stood up, left a message, and turned to leave. "If you can't stop it, come to my house. As long as you leave the core of the strange illusion, my Sakuramiya family can still protect you." Lin Yi's eyes showed a trace of surprise. The other party had this intention and treated him as a friend. Looking at Sakuramiya Shirley, who turned and left, Lin Yi smiled and said, "Be careful on the road." Ring, ring, ring. Sakuramiya Shirley didn't say anything, and disappeared in the Yorozue with the ringing of the bell. Less than a few minutes after she left, a needle ring rang again. A woman in a black dress walked in. She had a full head of black hair, and her hands were still wearing black silk gloves, all the way to the end of her forearms. The lace dress was very delicate, and her appearance was even more beautiful. There was a deep look in her eyes, as if a black flame was burning. The moment she entered the Wanchaiwu, her eyes fell on Lin Yi. A trace of anger rose in her eyes. "It's you." Lin Yi was thinking about the message left by Sakuramiya Shirley at this time. He was slightly stunned when he heard the angry words. Looking up in the direction of the voice, a beautiful woman was looking at him with anger. Instantly, he remembered who this person was in his mind. In the Red Lotus Mansion, the mysterious woman who wanted to snatch the Ring of Wailing. The black fire controlled by the other party was very powerful, but he was attacked by a handful of lime and covered his face. He also took the opportunity to escape and avoid this mysterious woman, but he didn't expect that the other party suddenly appeared in the Wanchaiwu. Lin Yi raised his eyebrows, but he was not too nervous. Now that the Wanchaiwu has melted all kinds of weird things, he has the confidence to be fearless of the other party. "It turned out to be you, please sit down." The black-clothed woman looked at the calm Lin Yi, and a trace of gloom appeared on her face. She swayed lightly with lotus steps and came to the seat in front of Lin Yi in high heels and sat down. "What good luck, we can settle our accounts together." Yan Menjiao's face showed a hint of sneer, and a slightly terrifying aura slowly gathered around her body. Lin Yi waved his hand. "First of all, we don't have any accounts to settle. To be precise, you owe me." Bang! The mysterious woman slapped her hands on the table and was about to attack. But the next moment, she frowned, and a huge danger rose from behind. A huge shadow stood behind her, and she felt a danger that was enough to kill her. With a cold face, looking at Lin Yi, the atmosphere fell into solemnity. Lin Yi smiled slightly. "Don't get excited, isn't it better for everyone to sit down and reason?" He, "Okay, I want to see how you reason." Lin Yi looked at Yan Menjiao, who slowly sat down and remained alert. "What's the lady's name?" When asking a lady's name, shouldn't you give your own name first? I'm sorry, I'm Lin Yi, the manager of this Xuanhuan. Humph, my name is Yan Menjao, tell me now, what's your reason? I owe you. You stole my target, I will make you pay for this debt. Lin Yi smiled faintly. First of all, the matter of Honglian Mansion was handled by the owner of that place, Honglian K paid me to deal with it. Second, it was me who eliminated the strange existence. Third, the strange things left after the strange existence was eliminated are my trophies. Fourth, you attacked me without saying a word when you entered Honglian Mansion. Fifth, you attacked me, and I fought back, which seems to be okay, right? I didn't lie a word about the above 5 points, you can investigate at will. Lin Yi's reasoning is clear, and all the reasons are on his side. From any angle, it's not his fault. Yan Menjao was stunned when she heard this. If what Lin Yi said was true, then she was indeed wrong. Taking a deep breath, Yan Menjao looked at Lin Yi. Okay, if this is the case, I am indeed wrong. What happened to us before was my fault. I apologize to you. I'm sorry. But I'll give you a warning. Strange objects are not so easy to get. Since ancient times, people who have taken strange objects have been corroded and died by strange objects. So you'd better hand over the strange objects to people or organizations that specialize in managing them. Lin Yi saw that Yan Menjao actually admitted her mistakes very readily, and immediately felt much better about her. In this world, people who can admit their mistakes so readily after knowing their mistakes are extraordinary. And she admitted her mistakes in front of the person involved, and she was a woman. This kind of personality and rationality are no longer ordinary people. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 69. Most of the time, because of their pride and face, they will never seriously apologize to others. Writing this, I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. Lin Yi smiled slightly. I received your warning, but I don't take it seriously yet. The mysterious black figure standing behind Yan Menjao disappeared with Lin Yi's smile. It was the album monster he summoned. The purple corpse monster can move freely in all the weird spaces in this house of things. Lin Yi summoned it just now and stood behind Yan Menjao. If she made any move, she would be attacked from both sides. I have received your apology. I don't know why Miss Yan Menjao came to my Wanchi house today. Lin Yi looked at Yan Menjao with a smile and had some guesses in his mind. Yan Menjao looked at Lin Yi with a complex expression. My purpose of coming is very simple. You killed Li Huan and got the core strange object of the strange illusion, right? Lin Yi shook his head lightly. I don't know what the core weird things are, I'm just an ordinary Wanchai store manager. You don't have to hide it? Several forces have already confirmed this matter. Li Huan's scene left a lot of traces of killings, and the detection results of all forces point to this place. So there's no point in covering it up. The major forces have already identified you as the one who did it. Everyone will look for you next, until the core weird thing appears again. Lin Yi narrowed his eyes when he heard this. Sure enough, it's just like what Ying Gong Shirley said. Did you come to the door? This time it's really a big trouble. Haha, this is just your guess. I am just a businessman, doing business as expected. If you come here to cause trouble, I will have no choice but to call the police for help. Seeing that Zhuang Wuming seemed to have no intention of admitting it, Yan Menjao shook her head. I thought you were a smart person. Call the police? If it works, you're really lucky. Forget it, I was reckless last time, so I won't take action this time. As long as the weird core is still in your hands, I won't take action against you. Even if our matter is completely settled here, I will give you a formal apology. After saying that, he stopped talking to Lin Yi, got up and left. Ring ring ring. Seeing Yan Menjiao push out the door, Lin Yi raised his eyebrows and said, "She is a very refreshing woman. One is gone. Although I don't know which faction she belongs to, other factions won't be so easy to talk to." Lin Yi narrowed his eyes. He did not intend to kill in Wanchaiwu. After all, it was in Red Lotus City, in broad daylight, and he did not want to challenge the majesty of the empire. As long as he can defeat all the forces coming one by one, things will probably change. On the street outside Wanchaiwu, people looked at Yan Menjiao who walked out of it. In a shadow, a young man with white hair showed a hint of surprise in his eyes when he saw this scene. Yan Menjiao's fiery temper actually didn't lead to a fight with the person inside. It's interesting. It seems that the Wanchaiwu store manager has some tricks up his sleeve. As if he thought of something interesting, a strange smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Since the hospital doesn't want it, then let me accept it. At night, the eternal red sky of the Red Lotus realm slowly dimmed, and the world became dark. The various forces that have been observing Wanchaiwu from the outside still have not taken action. They seem to be waiting for the next guy to test, and each of them has the intention of being a follower. Time passed minute by minute until 12 o'clock in the night. A figure came quietly behind Wanchaiwu. The person holding a black scabbard sword in his left hand was wearing black clothes and a black hood. Only a pair of eyes were exposed, like a shadow, quietly coming to the shadow outside the courtyard wall. Even the people outside who had been monitoring this direction did not notice his appearance. The black shadow flashed slightly, and in the next moment it silently crossed the outer wall and rolled into the courtyard. The moment he landed in the courtyard, he suddenly felt a chill rising from his heart. He turned around and dodged the huge fist falling from above his head. Hula! There was a sound of tearing air, and the slightest chance of passing through his mask. Clang! The sword was unsheathed, and a red sword light flashed in the dark night. Like a poisonous dragon, it slashed towards the purple arm. Bang! Like stabbing into hard steel, the sword got stuck after just 1 foot of penetration. At this time, a huge strong wind hit the man's head from the left. His face changed drastically, the man's whole body vibrated with energy, the sword in his hand glowed red, and he suddenly pulled it out from the stabbing object. A huge force exploded under his feet, and he took a step back to avoid the oncoming punch. Hula! The huge airflow directly tore his veil open, revealing a strange face. No eyebrows, eyelashes, beard, or hair. The entire face was smooth and bald, and the nose seemed to be collapsed, with only 2 slender nostrils. With his mouth closed tightly and his eyes narrowed, he looked very strange. The number 1 master under Sakuramiya Zhangxiu, the assassin Wu Shui. He was ordered by Yinjiang Zhangxiu to take advantage of the incident with the core strange object and kill Lin Yi, who ruined Yinjiang Zhangxiu's plan to breathe a sigh of relief. But what he never expected was that he encountered a terrifying onslaught as soon as he entered the Wanchaiwu. He avoided 2 fatal attacks in a row before he could see the situation clearly. A faint black mist had appeared around him at some point. A naked, purple-skinned weirdo with countless scars on his body stood not far from him. A deep sword mark on its arm was healing rapidly, and both fists were covered with purple scales. The healing speed of the arm could be confirmed by the naked eye, and a creepy feeling surged in his heart. What is this? What kind of monster is this? Although he was also a master of the human immortal spirit pool level, he did not have this ability. The purple corpse monster moved, and its body was like a mountain, rushing towards Wuxiu. The courtyard was only 20 or 30 square meters, and the distance between the two was only 3 steps. The fist of the purple corpse monster was the size of a human head, and the muscles were clearly visible, like steel. If it hit the body, the bones would be broken instantly. The sword in Wuxiu's hand flashed, covered with a layer of dark red blood. The practice of bloodless swordsmanship can make the sword energy grow continuously in the enemy's body. Swallowing the enemy's blood, it will eventually split into countless sword energy, explode from the enemy's body, and cut the enemy into pieces. The sword light was sharp, instantly covering the 1-meter range in front of the sword. Like a blood wave, it completely covered the purple monster. Puff puff puff. Countless cutting sounds rang out, and the purple corpse monster was cut with scars all over its body. Bloody small sword energy rushed into its body. But what surprised Wuxia was that after his sword energy entered the opponent's body, he did not feel the sense of growth. Damn, this is not life. His swordsmanship is most powerful against living beings with blood, but it is completely useless against non-humans. Bang bang bang. Amid a burst of sound, the blood-like sword light was directly torn apart by the purple fist. The purple corpse monster with scars all over its body rushed towards him frantically, like a humanoid tyrannosaurus. In the narrow range of the courtyard, Wuxia could not avoid it at all. Looking at the monster in front of him, he took a deep breath, sank his body, and instantly lay on the ground. At the same time, his legs suddenly bounced off the ground, turning into a blood-red sword light and rushing towards the purple corpse monster from the lower body. His speed was too fast, and the purple corpse monster did not react. The blood-colored humanoid rushed from the crotch of the purple corpse monster. At the same time, a blood-colored sword light chopped towards its thigh. This sword gathered Wuxia's 100% power, and the sword light almost overflowed from the sword and turned into substance. Between life and death, Wuxia exerted his killing experience to the extreme. When a metallic collision sound, accompanied by huge inertia. Wuxia hit the wall at the entrance of the courtyard corridor. At this time, the wall was covered with a layer of light black gas, which absorbed his impact. It was the huge recoil force that shook Wuxia's body. The sword in Wuxia's hand had been released and stuck on the thigh of the purple humanoid corpse monster. Its thigh was cut in half, and the sword was stuck in the steel-like muscles and bones. Wuxia took a breath of cold air when he saw this scene, and his face turned pale. The sword just now consumed 30% of his energy, and the output of a full-strength attack only had this effect. He immediately knew that the opponent was too powerful to be defeated. Without hesitation, he turned over and jumped out of the courtyard. But as soon as he moved, he felt his whole body go limp and his face changed drastically. He looked down at himself and didn't know when his whole body turned black. Poison, damn it! But there was no time for him to regret it at this time. The purple corpse monster was already walking towards him. No, I can't die here, fear appeared on his face. He was a master of the human immortal level, and he died silently in a back garden. He was unwilling to think about it. Without hesitation, he directly activated his energy and used the last resort. A terrifying energy exploded from his body. His whole body was blood red, and the black poison seemed to be suppressed at this moment. He turned over and jumped up from the ground, ignoring the purple corpse monster walking towards him. This jump was 3 meters high and several meters away, and he was about to jump out of the wall. Bang! A muffled sound made him look stunned, and then he showed despair. Weird illusion. This was the last thought of his life. A huge palm grabbed his head and squeezed it hard. Puff! With a muffled sound, his smooth head exploded directly, and blood splattered. The bloodless corpse twitched a few times in the hands of the purple corpse monster, and then it didn't move anymore. Lin Yi walked out of the shadows and sneered at the bloodless corpse. Sakuramiya surely told him about the bloodless person, so when he saw the other person's face, he immediately let the purple humanoid corpse monster kill him. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 70. The purple corpse monster's first attack also lived up to Lin Yi's expectations. With the help of the poisonous smoke emitted by the poisonous doctor next to him, Wu Shui was easily left behind. He had a clear understanding of the power of the many strange objects and strange beings he had obtained. Writing this, I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. Even if 2 or 3 first-level masters of the immortal Dao besieged the Wanchaiwu Vua. With Wanchaiwu's current strength, I can keep them all. Tonight will probably be a sleepless night. Lin Yi's eyes showed a hint of reason and a cold light. He is a person who believes in equal exchange. Anyone who wants to take away what belongs to him will face his crazy revenge. But this time, there are many forces involved, so we need to be cautious. Pull a group, kill a group, release a group, it should be enough to scare them. If no one stronger takes action. Lin Yi suddenly raised his eyebrows and looked towards the courtyard. The bloodless corpse was decomposing rapidly under the mist shrouding the surrounding Wanchi house, at an alarming rate. In just a few minutes, his body completely disappeared, leaving only his clothes on the ground. Even the bones disintegrated in the mist. What's going on? Lin Yi could feel that the space that his Wanchaiwu was integrated into seemed to become a little powerful. Absorbing the corpses and power of the dead creatures inside to grow? It's really weird. Lin Yi was wary of strange objects. However, the Book of Strange Spirits he holds seems to be very restrained from the power of strange objects. This is convenient for disposing of the corpse. A cold smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Around the Wanchaiwu house, 3 figures walked out at the same time. On the street, they looked at each other and were stunned. Obviously they didn't expect everyone to attack at the same time. But now that they have met, they have no intention of backing down. Let's do it together and talk about it after we take it down. One of the men, who was at least 40 years old, said in a low voice. Okay, a husky female voice said. Okay, another man with various scars on his face agreed. In the shadows everywhere on the street, some people were watching these 3 guys, including Mobai with white gloves. He looked at the 3 of them with a smile on their lips. That's right. Let you take the lead. The owner of this All Things house is a bit strange. You must have the ability to make Yan Menjao give up. Maybe you can hear something from these 3 people. Mobai's face is ordinary, but the corners of his mouth are always slightly raised, showing a crazy expression. But his eyes revealed an absolute calmness, without any mood swings. In another 2-story house, Bai Minjiao, the deputy director of the Black Blood Department of the Empire, was also looking at this place. He has a stern expression, looks young, in his 20s, and has a sharp aura about him. His battle-hardened maturity, coupled with his youthful appearance, always makes people feel weird. Besides him, there were 5 members of the Blood Club in the room. Just listen to Huang Yiming say, Vice Captain, now that we have found the core of the strange object, we will directly come forward in the name of the Empire and ask him to hand it over. Leaving this thing out will only create danger over and over again. Bai Minjiao heard this, turned to look at Huang Yiming, shook his head and said, the Empire and the strange forces have reached an agreement. The ownership of strange objects can only be obtained by relying on their own strength, whether they are soft or hard. But the Empire is absolutely not allowed to ask others to hand it over in its own name. This is a rule. It can be exchanged and snatched, but it cannot be demanded in name. Huang Yiming's face showed confusion. How could the Empire agree to such an agreement? I really don't understand. It's very simple. The forces on the weird side are hidden in the dark, while the Empire is in the open. Once the Empire demands others to hand over strange objects in name, how many people can resist the Empire's pressure? Almost not, but for the forces on the weird side, this is not a good thing. The forces on the weird side are so destructive that the Empire had to agree to this agreement at the cost of destroying a city. When Huang Yiming heard this, his expression suddenly changed, as if he had thought of something. The natural disaster in the north 30 years ago and the destruction of Kasa City, could it be that incident? Bai Minjiao nodded, yes, there are different opinions on the destruction of Khasa's city. But the real reason is that the major crime White Gloves committed at that time released a terrifying and strange existence. Other weird forces did not stop it and allowed the incident to happen. The result was that the Empire had to reach an agreement with the strange forces. A look of anger appeared on Huang Yiming's face. Damn it, these weird side forces simply don't take the lives of the Empire seriously. It really deserves to be killed. Humph. So since the power of the spiritual path emerged, the Empire has invested heavily in the spiritual path, and the people in black will establish it. In the past 3 years, our 13th department has been the backbone of the Empire's response to strange forces. Just continue until the power of a higher level of spiritual practice is mastered. Even those ancient strange object holders, we will be able to fight against them sooner or later. The future belongs to all of us humans, not these monsters infected by strange objects. Bai Minjiao's eyes showed a hint of cruelty. Obviously, he had no good feelings towards those who possessed strange objects and cultivated strange powers. At this time, Huang Yiming said, then how should we deal with Lin Yi, the owner of this Wanchaiwu? Bai Minjiao looked at the door of the Wanchaiwu, where 3 figures directly pushed the door open and walked in. Let's see the strength of this person first. If he is strong enough, we can extend an olive branch and let him join us voluntarily. Ring, ring, ring. In the Wanchaiwu, the sound of the door being pushed open rang out, and 3 figures entered in a line, without hiding their whereabouts at all. In the hall, Lin Yi sat on a chair and looked at them quietly. The 3 looked at Lin Yi, who was waiting for them, and were slightly surprised. The middle-aged man said in a low voice, "Boy, hand over the things. The strange core of the strange illusion is not something you can get involved in." Lin Yi glanced at the 3 of them. Are you a practitioner of strange power? Yes, you are just an ordinary master of cultivation, no match for us. Hand over the things, we will naturally retreat and will not kill you, the middle-aged man said in a low voice. He, but there are 3 of you and only one thing, how are you going to divide it? A hoarse female voice sounded. It was an ugly woman with a hint of coldness in her eyes. It's useless to sow discord. If you don't hand it over, then we will have to do it ourselves.